be giving a TED Talk on the journey from skinny to healthy. I vividly remember that I was in 3rd grade when I first realized I was different from the other kids. It wasn't because I liked to spend a lot of time alone reading, or that I had an extremely vivid imagination, or even that I was so mature that I could carry conversations with adults easily. It was because of how I looked. I was in a Catholic school with a really small class of only 19 kids, and in that class I stood out with a sore thumb for something that I didn't even really understand. I was overweight. This fact hadn't dawned on me until a girl on the playground came up to me and asked me if I was pregnant because I had such a big belly. At that age, I'd never really thought about my weight or what I looked like, but as soon as that comment was made, I became hyper aware of every single part of my body. This was the beginning of a body image complex that would eventually develop into something deeper in the future: anorexia. The dictionary definition of anorexia nervosa is a serious disorder in eating behavior, primarily of young women in their teens and early 20s, that is characterized especially by a psychological fear of weight gain, leading to faulty eating patterns, malnutrition, and usually excessive weight loss. It is also the mental illness with the highest fatality rate. Over time, this definition became my reality. There are many factors that lead to anorexia, but for me, I can perfectly pinpoint what led to my disorder. Sadly, the bullying about my weight did not stop with that one comment on the playground. In 4th grade, my parents decided that I really needed to lose weight, so they forced me to work out almost every day and stop buying ice cream for the house. They would bribe me to lose weight by saying that for every 2 to 3 pounds that I lost, they would buy me my favorite TV show on DVD, Gilmore Girls. And for a kid in grade school, all we really wanted to do was watch TV, so honestly, that was the perfect bribe. While their intentions were well placed, my parents sparked my first bout of obsessive exercising. On top of this crazy mission for my weight loss, my dad also was not the kindest person about my body weight. He had created the nickname Katie Pig for me, and every time I would go back for seconds at dinner or eat a snack or be eating what he thought was too much, he'd have a pained look on his face and point it out to me. This behavior continued up until my sophomore year of high school. And on top of this, I was also dealing with bullying from boys as well. They were either hurling insults at me about my weight or pretending to like me, then saying that they could never like me later on because I was too fat. As I'm sure you can imagine, all of these incidents combined were toxic. I had grown up my whole life believing that my weight was evil and wrong, and was this characteristic about myself that needed to be eradicated at all costs. Not only did I have the social and environmental aspects affecting my life, but I also was battling against my own mind. Picking out outfits every day was a chore for me, because everything I put on would either make me feel fat or disgusting, and I'd have to try on at least 10 things before I decided what to wear. I would also pinch and slap my fat, and imagine taking a needle and making the movement and just sucking the fat right out of my body. I felt ugly, awkward, and honestly worthless. Enter high school, and I carried this idea in my mind. On the first day, one very clear observation hit me like a brick. I was one of 3 overweight girls in my class. From that moment on, everything changed. Now, I'll take some time to touch on some important statistics. While doing research, I discovered a sad trend that showed me that my body image really isn't that different than many other girls. It is estimated that 42% of 1st and 3rd grade girls want to be thinner, and 81% of 10-year-olds are afraid of being fat. Sadly, the way our society is structured is leading to increasing pressures on women, starting from a very young age. And a major contributor to this is the media. As most of us have been told many a time, the models on magazines and the people in music videos or on TV don't accurately represent what women look like. But still, we see this every day and we start to believe it. In fact, the Just Say Yes organization says that airbrushed models weigh 23% less than the average woman. And the average U.S. woman is 5'4" and weighs 165 pounds. Despite this, 69% of elementary girls that read magazines say that these images affect their concept of the ideal body weight, and 47% say these pictures make them want to lose weight. Little girls are growing up revering these photoshopped models and seemingly perfect people and learning false concepts of what beauty truly is. I vividly remember in 5th grade, my friend Sean and I sat down and we made this inspiration board full of pictures of beautiful models and skinny people in bikinis and we made it our sole mission to end up looking like them. This is all we thought about. So we grew up feeling inferior, and honestly, these feelings just intensified over time because we could never really achieve these body types. Now, how did my body image grow into a full-blown eating disorder? It all started with freshman year spring break. Like most girls my age, I got caught up in the whole idea of having the perfect bikini body. It was my first time ever going to the beach, and I was so excited, I just wanted to look amazing in all of the pictures. So, like any other teenage girl, I turned to Pinterest. I went on and found all of these workout printouts and healthy eating recipes, and so I could use them to achieve my goal. However, this casual dieting and exercise slowly grew into something malicious. Studies have found that 35% of most dieters progress to pathological dieting, and 20 to 25% progress to either slight or full-on eating disorders. I became a statistic. Slowly but surely, I became obsessed with watching the number on the scale creep down. The compliments people gave me on my weight loss were like a drug to me, and I had to keep losing weight so that I could get another dose. My 3 to 4 times a week of exercising for roughly an hour turned to 6 then 7 days for 2+ hours. My casual dieting turned into food blogs, counting calories, obsessively memorizing nutrition labels, and slowly decreasing calorie intake. At my worst, I consumed less than 500 calories a day, obsessing over every little tiny detail, including how many raspberries I put on my fat-free yogurt. Now, one of the most common symptoms of anorexia is extreme weight loss, and over the course of 3 months, I lost over 60 pounds. However, there are many other symptoms such as dizziness, hair falling out, yellowing of the skin, losing your period, and many other things. I personally, at the age of 15, lost my period, had hair falling out in clumps, would often black out from the effort of even just standing in the shower, was freezing no matter how warm it was out, and I had a blood pressure so low that my pediatrician told me if I continued the way I was, I could be dead in a couple of weeks. Although these symptoms are pretty bad, honestly, the worst are the mental symptoms, and those are the ones that drive you to the brink of insanity. Every single thought I had was tinged with fear about weight gain, obsessing over meals, and having the negative voice in my head tell me that I was disgustingly fat. And because of this, I was constantly on the brink of tears. I was either silently crying in class, or running out of the classroom to call my mom and sob on the phone for hours because I just couldn't do it anymore. Another very clear symptom that I had was lack of emotion and social withdrawal. My once bubbly, goofy, and downright weird personality turned into a person that was a walking zombie with no feelings and the sense of humor of a brick. I did not want to talk to people or go out and have social situations because it was draining, and I couldn't even stand there without thinking about myself and obsessing over everything, so talking to people was just too hard. My sophomore year of high school, I only hung out with my friends outside of school maybe 7 times. And my attendance in school also suffered due to the fact that I couldn't sit still without driving myself insane about how I looked. My life was not worth living, and my only goal and desire was to become as thin as possible. Sadly, one aspect of our society that exists is the stigma surrounding mental illnesses. The dictionary definition of stigma is a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. Mental illnesses are often seen as something embarrassing that you should hide for fear of being judged. Discussion about mental illnesses is taboo and makes people uncomfortable when brought up in conversation. And this stigma greatly affects the people that are living with mental illness. They become afraid to open up, they feel alone in society, and they just shut themselves off because it's something they feel they can't talk about. And this is detrimental to the healing process because you need a community. You need to feel loved and supported like you're worth something, not feel like you're being alienated. As a whole, society needs to move forward towards becoming more open, accepting, and knowledgeable about these topics. Demolishing this stigma will allow those who are in the darkness to come into the light and feel embraced by society and loved, and be able to recover. On the topic of recovery, recovery is one of the hardest things to accomplish. In fact, according to the National Eating Disorders Association, only 1/3 of those that are actively battling anorexia seek treatment. This usually occurs because they're in denial, they see no problem with their habits, they're too scared to open up and talk about it, or honestly, their skinniness matters more to them than their own health and well-being. Furthermore, you can't force someone with anorexia to seek treatment. They must decide on their own that they have a problem and they want help, or they'll sabotage treatment or even flat out refuse to go. Once an individual decides to undergo treatment, however, there are many options, such as going to a therapist, going to a dietitian, going to the hospital, receiving inpatient or outpatient care, and there are also many other online resources and places in your community. For me, recovery consisted of going to the hospital 3 times a week, going to a dietitian once a week, and a therapist once a week, where I'd get poked and prodded with needles, get blood tests, I'd have to give urine tests, be weighed not looking at the scale, and answer all of these questions like, on a scale of 1 to 5, where do you rate how you're feeling about food today? And I'd have to present them with everything I ate so they could make sure I was slowly increasing my calorie intake. Another thing that they did is they forced me to eat a lot of peanut butter, because the part of recovery for eating disorders is you have to gain back most of the weight you lost. And this is why it's so terrifying, because they're kind of forcing you to do the one thing you've become so scared of. And that's why recovery from eating disorders is a very long, slow, and emotionally draining process. And even after you finish recovery and get back to a healthy weight, you're still going through the process of recovery. There can be flare-ups of negative thoughts, or you could even have a relapse. I still have bad days. There are days when I pinch at my fat, feel disgusting in all of my outfits, obsess over how much I ate, freak out that I've gained weight and start excessively exercising, and panic. But overall, I've come extremely far. I now know how to ride out these flare-ups and not let it control my life, and I've learned ways to start to love my body. I've worked a lot of my off-limits foods back into my diet, and I stopped letting food run my life. I'm a work in progress, but I'm getting stronger every day. At this point in my talk, I'd like to bring up what you can do to help the cause. There are many organizations, such as NEDA, that are always taking donations and have volunteer positions available. You can also participate in walks or fundraisers to help support the cause. If you're struggling with an eating disorder or have had one in the past, you can open up about your story and share with others to help start demolishing the stigma. Also, if you believe that a friend is struggling, or you yourself, there is a 3-minute screening on the NEDA website that can help discover whether or not your patterns really are those of an eating disorder. But finally, the most important thing you can do is be open, supportive, and accepting of those who are going through eating disorders. It really helps with recovery and creates a strong, positive community where they can start working on themselves. Even though studies have shown that the number of individuals with anorexia, ages of 15 to 19, has increased every single decade since 1930, there's still hope. And I believe that we can start decreasing that number by eradicating the stigma and making society accepting and loving of all body types. Every body is beautiful, and I hope that someday every single person can recognize their own beauty and self-worth. Thank you.